Welcome, everybody. My name is Noreen Savage, and this is Starting Out Bright. I am so glad you're here. And just to tell you who I am and who I'm not. First of all, I am nobody official with Bright Line Eating, but the program has really been enjoyable to me, and it has helped me so much. I got acquainted with it through my friend Lori, who posted on Facebook. She did that for her first year birthday, and she just said she had lost 57 pounds. If anybody was interested in this program called Bright Line Eating, to give her a holler. And my hot little fingers got over the messenger as fast as I could to find out what is the new diet I was going to go on. Well, then Lori proceeded to tell me that there were 4 bright lines to Bright Line Eating, a book written by Dr. Susan Pierce Thompson. And the 4 lines were no sugar, no flour, 3 meals a day, weighed and measured portions. When I heard all that, I was sick. I thought there's absolutely no way I could do all of that. Maybe not any of it. But I really like my friend. We got together for lunch. She proceeded to tell me a little bit more about the program. And by the time I left that lunch meeting, she had convinced me to get the book and to get into the community. At that time, it was a private Facebook group called We Eat Bright with Lines. Now there are many Facebook groups, including Starting Out Bright, which is also a private group associated with these Zoom chats, recipe groups, the Church of Latter-day Saints, Brightest Eaters, which is a wonderful group too that Wendy's a part of, and many, many other groups. So I got in the group and I just sat and watched and read and listened to the stories and saw these amazing transformational photos then and now. And people were sharing their success and their struggles. But I saw so many people losing weight, like not just 5 or 10, but 50, 100, 150. That got my attention because at the time I was 270 pounds, 5'2", and I was in a lot of pain. I was snoring every night, keeping my husband up all night. I also had sleep apnea. So when I did finally get him to be him sleeping, he would hear me startled, like waking myself up with his sleep apnea. It was not fun. I had swollen feet, neuropathy. I knew that diabetes was around the corner calling my name. So I was at a point of being willing to try something so drastic as Bright Line Eating. And I promised myself that if I lasted 1 year, I would do what my friend Lori did. I get choked up because if she hadn't posted, I probably wouldn't be here and I wouldn't have met all of you. And it's just been a beautiful thing. But I promised myself that if I lasted 1 year, I would do what Lori did. I would post on my private Facebook page and I'd help anybody I could. Well, when that year came up, and it's almost 3 years now, when the year came up in 2020, I'm getting ready to post. I'm a Christian and I felt God say, Noreen, you can do more than that. You could connect people. It's the time of Zooms. And so that's great, except who's going to come on the show? Well, you know who comes on? Those who are willing to help one more person. And that's who we have today, Wendy Laterza. And what a loving, wonderful Wendy. There's a reason she's called Wonderful Wendy, loving heart and ready to help. So give it up for Wendy. Welcome, Wendy. I am so glad
Thank you.
And, you know, we talked the other day. It was fantastic getting to know each other. And, you know, we talked a little bit about our stories, and I just did just now. So if you could kind of bring us up to speed of why you would go into something as drastic as Bright Line Eating. You can go back as far as you want. What brought you here?
Well, just like you, I had a friend who I was chatting with her on the phone, Tracy Dunford, and I told her that I was going to try and do the Virgin diet. JJ Virgin is the lady's name, and it's an elimination diet. And I had had some success with it on before, but then gained everything back plus friends. And I told her I was thinking I was going to go back on that because I had felt good while I was on it. And she said, "Well, I am doing Bright Line Eating. You should, I really like it. You should come and do it." And then, kind person that she gifted me the audiobook, which I read, and I thought, let's give it a go. So she and I kind of held hands and jumped off the side of the bridge together, and we've been going strong, doing well with that.
And that's fantastic. So you said you were going to try this virgin diet with the elimination, like that,
Right.
That eliminates some foods. So you weren't a stranger to that.
With that one, you have no dairy, no egg, no gluten, no corn, no soy. There's 7 things. No sugar and no artificial sweeteners. And so it takes down a lot of your food.
So sugar and not and artificial sugars both, or just
right.
Okay, so you got into it. And what was your approach into Bright Line Eating? Did you just read the book, or did you go for more help, like 14-day challenge?
I read the book. I signed up for the 14-day challenge. When I was through with the 14-day challenge, I signed up for the boot camp. Somebody gave me a code so I could get a discount for the boot camp. Hooray. And so I signed up for that and was working my way through that when the new program rolled in about the monthly membership. And so they converted my boot camp into a membership, all access membership. I just paid a little extra to get the all access membership. And then I was just ready to start when the holiday program started, and then resume in January. So I've just been kind of following it through. I started August 1st of last year. And so I'm coming up on my 1-year Bright Line anniversary. And just like you, I said when I lost 50 pounds that I would go public. Other than that, I was just keeping it really quiet, not going to tell anybody, and was waiting and hoping that somebody would notice that I was losing some weight, that I'd done it before many times. People say all the time, "How much weight have you lost, Wendy?" And I say, "I've lost 2,000 pounds because I've lost the same 20 pounds 100 different times." So when I got to my 50-pound weight loss, I was too chicken to go out and tell anybody about it. So anyways, this is good because you're giving me the opportunity to keep that promise that I made to myself.
Right. Surprise, world.
Yay. Hello, world. Here I am.
It's really incredible that, and when you said you lost 2,000, you can literally say I lost a ton. Like,
yes, so true.
I was right in the same boat too. I mean, it was like over and over a broken record. And I found that dieting all the time was not only lonely, I mean, except for in my head, I had constant chattering about diets in my head all the time. But you were talking about when you got started with Bright Line Eating, this is the other day when we talked, that you were surprised in your entrance of what was more difficult of the 4 bright lines. Can you share about that?
Well, I think for me, cutting out the sugar and the flour, that was the easy part. But because they say that those are substance addictions, but the behavior addictions have been the harder one for me. The constant snacking, always putting something in my mouth, the eating whenever I feel like it, having only 3 meals a day with no snacking in between. That was a huge change for me. I have been a healthy eater. In fact, I've had people say, "I don't understand why you're so heavy because you eat more healthy than anybody I know." And I've read 1,000 books about health and diet. I should be able to go toe to toe with any doctor or nutritionist on the planet because I've read so many books about it. And yet none of that helped get me down to a bright sized body. So it's interesting that what we know and what we do is not necessarily the same thing. And I like that the bright line eating put together these puzzle pieces that I was missing, that I was able to make that transition. So
When
that's
you
nice.
say the puzzle pieces that were missing, do you mean just the structure of it all besides?
The structure of it, and the fact that it's an addiction. And so when she talks about some people go home from the hospital with a pain pill and they take it and then they wean themselves off of it. And some people go home from the hospital with a pain pill and it starts them on a lifetime of drug addiction. I had a son who was addicted to heroin, and it started with painkillers for some injuries that he received when he was snowboarding, and from some friends that started him on the wrong path. But so I knew what addiction looked like, and I knew that I did have an addiction. My sugar and flour addiction were every bit as in control of my life as his heroin addiction was in his life. So it was nice to have somebody recognize that and give me a tool to fight it.
Right. I have to agree wholeheartedly. I never imagined that just the structure itself would be freeing for the brain. And the thing about eating, you're thinking you're eating healthy. I did too. I'm not going to lie and say I didn't have the sweets. I did. I had plenty of my share and more. But that's not really what was calling to me all the time at home. It would be the nuts. It would be, more leftovers. I would have seconds and thirds. It wasn't, and we ate good food. So it wasn't just always sweets or like always pizza or something like that. So it is appreciating all four of the lines that they work together. So you got started in boot camp and you picked up, and from our conversation, you picked up some great habits. I don't know if they all started there, but can you talk about like some of the structure, not just of the four bright lines, but of what you put together for your own personal habit stack?
Well, in the boot camp, they talk about all of the different things that help to give you these healthy habits. And I read Atomic Habits by James Clear, and we, that's all the talk that everybody has anymore. And so I started working on a little bit of a habit stack. And so I started with doing. I have a friend of mine that lived to be 90, and she didn't even have a Tylenol in her house because she was so healthy. And she said the reason why she was healthy is because she started every morning doing some simple stretches, some yoga. And so I started thinking I'm going to start doing just some simple stretches. Well, I'm morbidly obese, 5'2" and 220 pounds. And so I don't stretch very well. But I got up, I went online and I found her name is Holly Hanjo or something, a little gal from England that is also obese, and she just did this simple exercise on YouTube. So I started doing that every morning when I would get up, and it only took about 10 minutes, and that felt really good. That I felt like that was starting out my day really well. And so I started keeping the little 100-day thing where you colored it in, um, for what you were doing. And after I'd done that for about 25 days or so like that, I thought, okay, I'm ready to add something else. So with the boot camp, you had that meditation series. Monica, is that her name? I can't think of what her name is, but it was there and available for me. So I thought I'm going to start doing that. So I started getting up in the morning and doing the meditation that the Bright Line Eating provided. Then I did my little thing of stretching. And then about 20 days after that, I said, I'm ready to add something else. So I started adding a little simple, it's called a HIIT routine, a high intensity interval training. So it's 10 minutes long, just moving my arms and doing a few squats. It took about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. So I added that to my habit stack. And then she said that she, being Susan Pierce Thompson, said that you should add some kind of a reading to your. So I started doing that. So then every morning I did I did my meditation, then I did my stretching, then I did my um, hip training, and then I read my little thing, then I made my bed. So I just started adding a few things to it. And it was funny because after being on Bright Line Eating for 6 months, I went for a checkup. Now, I never go to the doctor. I hate to go to the doctor. So I kind of was going because I wanted to see what my progress was. And so when we went there, of course, I had lost, about 40 pounds at that point. I went in March, so I'd been on for about 6 months. I went in March. My weight was lower. My blood pressure was better. My A1C was perfect. Everything looked really good. And so we were talking with the doctor, and he was, yeah, that looks really good. And then I said something about it, and I've added these habits. And every time I told him everything I was doing, he was equally excited about those habits that I was putting into my life as he was about the weight that I was doing. He was like, you know what, you're doing great. You keep doing exactly what you're doing. So that was very motivational to me. I'm not at my goal weight yet, but I still am on my way. Anyway, so I've struggled through this summer. However, I'm finding that I'm still so much further ahead than I was when I started this program.
And so all of those that you just talked about, all of these wonderful habits that you began, you just built one on top of the other. You didn't do
Right.
like 5 to start.
Nope.
You just started with that Holly Hanyo, right? And just
started doing some simple stretches. Yep.
That's amazing.
And I feel better when I do them.
But I'm actually even surprised that Susan suggested adding some exercise, or was it just you saw the woman who was 90 and you started to do the stretching? Is that how it worked?
I did the stretching because my friend who lived to be 90 said you should do some stretching. So that's what started. And I thought that would be good for me to be able to do that because I woke up in the morning and was very stiff. You get out of bed and it snap, crackle, and pop, and it takes you a while to get up and be able to get moving. So
yeah,
that's what I started.
So what about at the end of the day? Did you add anything there?
No, I should though. Brushing my teeth.
Okay.
I make sure I brush my teeth before I go to bed, but I usually brush my teeth right after dinner because that kind of signals to my brain that I'm done for the day. So
did you start doing the food journal though, or no?
I do. Yes. Oh my goodness, how could I forget that? I do write down at night after dinner before I brush my teeth. I write down what I'm going to eat the next day, and then I commit it to a buddy. I have been so blessed with amazing guides and amazing buddies. We have a weekly buddy that we have them for a week, and then the next week we move and we get a new buddy and we report to them for a week, and we go back and forth that way. And it's so fun because I get to meet new people and they have new ideas and they have new problems, and they're excited to have somebody new and I'm excited to have somebody new. The only problem that I have is that I never let go. So once you're my buddy forever. So I'm sure that I have.
You have like 20
I have a lot of buddies. I have a lot of buddies now that I love to report to, and I love to hear how they're doing. Sometimes we don't talk every day. Sometimes we talk once or twice a month, but they're mine. They're all mine, and I want them all. And my coaches or guides have been so generous with me. And I always think, I have some people that have been helping me they are top notch. They've gone through the program like you. They've been on it for years and they really know what they're talking about. Where I've just been floundering, just trying to put one day in front of the other, trying to string 2 or 3 or 4 days together. And I said, I appreciate so much the time that they are spending with me. And they said the reason why is because we will teach you, and then you will have the opportunity to help someone else down the road. We'll walk with you, and then you will walk with someone else. So I always say, let's link arms and let's all just walk this path together.
Well, one thing that you've said now a couple times is about the reading. And it's really like not just information, it's part of self-care too, right? And the one thing we talked about is that as you do get from not grazing all the time, you might have a little more time in your life to do something. Seriously. I mean, like even all the dieting that I did before, many of those diets, I was supposed to have 5, 6 meals a day.
Yep.
So it's like turning that off. You have like these stretches of time. Like, what am I supposed to do after dinner now? What am I supposed to do from 3 o'clock to 6? All that. But having had in your profession, you were in the postal service before.
Correct.
That opened you up to a lot of Audible, didn't it?
Yes, I listen to books all day, every day. I think I'm pretty well read. Every month I try to read a biography, a history book, a self-help book, and then some kind of a religious or a spiritual book. So I try to do those four things every month, and then after I've read those four things, then I can read anything that I want, which is usually historical romances that, I don't know, they rot my brain. But I have read enough self-help books, and I like ones that talk about being happy. I like ones that talk about sticking to things. In my health journey, I've read so many, so many books that are so good. I also love to listen to podcasts. I love the Kick Sugar Summit and the Quit Sugar Summit, and I love Ocean and John Robbins. And so, I have a lot of people that I rely on that give me a lot of good information.
Well, and the other day I said, Wendy, as much as you read, I'm going to ask you a question about books.
Sure.
Like, what are your favorite books, or what do you think would be something that would enlighten us? Some of your your favorites.
I really liked the Bright Line Eating book. That was a life changer for me. The Reboot Resume one was really good too. I read those still. I go back and reread them because they give me a little bit of a battery charge. Some other things that I've liked to read have been Unhooked by Michael Moss. That's his most recent book. And before that, he had one called Salt, Sugar, and Fat. And it was about how the food industry is on purpose making their products more addictive, that they use brain scans and all kinds of things to make it more addictive, and then turn right around and say, no, we're not doing that. Our food's not addictive. If you're weak and you can't handle it. So I love that it's tracking them and showing the life. Another one that I really like. I like Dean Ornish. I think his was Undo, and he was the name of his book. And in it, he talks about how just by changing your personal habits, you can undo all of the bad stuff that's out there in the food. And both of those talk so much about exactly like we talk about, eat food in its purest form, eat good food, and don't eat a lot of junk. So that was a really good one. There's one called The Case Against Sugar, and I had to read it a little bit at a time because it made me so angry that I had to get up and stomp around the house, like in between chapters, because it made me so angry. And what it talks about is all of the sugar lobby and all of the research that they suppressed or the cherry picked, or to make it sound like oh no, it's not us, we're all good. For example, everybody was on board with tobacco being addictive, but did you know that they spray tobacco with sugar to make it more addictive?
No.
Isn't that an interesting thing?
Wow.
Anyway, so that book, I have to be careful when I read books like that because my heart starts pounding, and anyway, so yes, I love books. I love books about food, and I love books about health, and I love biographies too. I think there's so many interesting people in history and in current times. So I like to read and learn a little bit about them.
We'll have to share some of those books in the Starting Out Bright group. So be aware of that. If there was a book, it's also probably on the slideshow. And
yes,
but look in the Starting Out Bright group for that.
Another one that I mentioned was the one called Grit, and it talks about how come some people quit doing stuff and some people hang on until they're successful. How come an Olympic athlete is an Olympic athlete and somebody else isn't? And so that was really interesting because they said it's not necessarily the talent, it's sticking with it. How many of us stick with something and we're just about to make a breakthrough and we give it up, and then we're right back where we started again. So that was a good one about sticking to it, sticking with it.
That's very true. Sometimes it's right around the corner. If you would just hang on there, what is it? What they say, wait till the miracle happens to you, something like that. But today my friend Suzanne posted in the Starting Out Bright group about creep. And I really love that post. And I think that it applies to a lot of people, including myself, that if you're not careful, or you are careful, but circumstances just happen and you find yourself maybe going off track. And we talked a little bit about that. How are you doing now? Because you said that you lost the 50 pounds and you had a few moments or days that have not been solid. How are you approaching that now? How are you getting back into your brightest days?
That's a really good question. It's one that I'm struggling with. I've been doing some research this summer, and I don't know what has triggered me to go off course when I was so strong and so dedicated for so long. I think some of it might have been that I was losing so slowly. I'm happy to do bright line eating forever, but can I please do it in a size 4 instead of a size 10? But I'm coming from a size 22, so I think, come on, Wendy, look how much better off you are. So it's interesting. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to remind myself that even if I have a bright breakfast, hooray for me. If I have a bright breakfast and a bright lunch, hooray for me. If I have a bright breakfast, lunch, and dinner, hooray for me. I'm going to celebrate every single triumph that I have. I don't have to be a crystal vase. I don't have to have a bright week. Every day counts. Every meal counts. And so I'm just going to keep, even if I mess up in between, by the next meal, I'm going to be back on track and dedicate myself again.
And you have never stopped connecting with a buddy, have you? That's
nope,
still stayed solid? Okay. So you can
It's interesting, though, when you get off track, though, that's the first thing that you think, oh, I can't tell them that I made a mistake. Oh, I can't tell them that I'm struggling. And that's not true, because they're struggling and you're struggling. And that's the whole point of the buddy system is hopefully we can all help each other step over those puddles and keep moving forward.
Well, and there are just days that, the day itself may trigger you into, like, this was the day that, or this is the day I have to meet so-and-so, or whatever. I mean, we just have life to go through. And I really love your attitude of, like, not beating yourself up, just saying, I did have a bright breakfast, or I planned my food for tomorrow. I got that far. It's like it's top of mind. I'm not just putting it on a shelf and saying, I'm not going to, pay attention to anything. I'm just going to throw it all out, just because I'm not doing well today. But you also said that sometimes you do better publicly than privately. Is that still true? Because
Probably.
Many people think when I go out to a restaurant, it's going to be I'm going to be all in.
Nope. I do very well at restaurants. I can keep my lines very bright at home. I mean, in a restaurant, and then come home and grab a handful of nuts as I'm walking by. And then I think, what? Get out of my hands. Don't get out of my mouth. How did that get in there? So yes, because I am so resolved. What is that called? That post-event collapse syndrome, where
Right.
I am so strong, and then I come home and some dumb little thing throws me off.
Well, I'm just gonna make an observation right now from something that you said. You said that at 50 pounds, you were going to tell people. Do you
right?
think that there could be a psychological thing about once you hit 50
100%.
pounds, I'm going to have to go public and I don't want to do
Mhm.
that. So I'm going to put myself out there. But if you don't get past 50, you don't have to put yourself out there.
Yep. That's probably why I've just been hovering right at that 50-pound mark. I think that's probably has a lot to do with it. Another thing was this last thing with all of the landing the plane, the last program of the maintenance program. That that reacted really weird in my brain
Hmm.
where it I can't explain it other than being on Brightline has been so nice and so easy. My brain has been quiet, and with them talking about maintenance, it was like all of a sudden all this chatter started back up in my brain, and so I have been fighting it again. I've almost had to stop thinking about maintenance and just thinking about, well, today I'm going to do this, because thinking about maintenance has triggered something in me. I don't know.
Well, I will give you one little hint that I used for myself, because for
Oh,
me,
good.
I had been on all the diets, all the plans, all stuff, but I couldn't get under 200. I just, from 270 to, I could get maybe around 50, but then go back up anywhere close, maybe even I think 212 was really close. Well, here I was teetering on the 200. I'm in like hyper alert, and it was COVID at the same time. And I had every reason, to not go under. I'm not going to see anybody. They're not going to see me. And plus, nobody knows about this yet. So I kept telling myself in my brain, it's okay. We're just going to take this as far as we can take it. When we get there, we're going to take it as far as we can take it. I seriously had to say that to myself every day. I'm getting a question about who is the yoga teacher. And that,
Her name is Holly Honjo. Holly, Honjo, Honjo.
okay.
And it's just a little YouTube one.
Does she also
She's
do
got
the HIIT training?
she's got a lot of different ones on there that are kind of cute.
Okay. So, and sounds like she is.
I like her because she breathes really heavy while she's doing the exercises, just like me.
Well, you said that she's a little overweight. And
Yep,
so
yep, she is.
it's like you don't have to worry about that if you're intimidated
I keep
by,
thinking we need to introduce her to Bright Light Eating.
maybe she's already doing it. You never know.
Maybe. Wouldn't that be cool?
So one other thing that you said that you do is you touch base every day. So
Yes.
you have like amazing habits. I don't know if this was I don't have all these habits. I wish I did, but I don't. So when you touch base, what do you mean? Just with your accountability buddy?
Yep, I do something Bright Line Eating every day. I either read part of a book or I watch a vlog. So that's what I mean by I keep my fingers in it so that it's never very far from so it's on my brain. So I'm remembering, okay, this is what my goal is. This is what I'm trying to do. And then because I have so many wonderful guides and buddies, and they are waiting for me to be accountable to them, and they are being accountable to me, that helps bring it home too. Like they'll say, oh, I haven't planned my food for tomorrow. And I think, oh, I haven't planned my food for tomorrow, or I haven't committed that to anybody. And sometimes just saying, I commit to this to somebody helps you to do that. I was doing something, I can't even remember what it was. And you know how she has that emergency action plan. So I texted and I said, this is what I'm going through right now, but I'm committing to you that I'm going to do well. And at the end of when it was over, you come back in and you say, oh, I feel so much better. Thank you so much for holding my commitment. And sometimes it's weird that just that little bit is what keeps you bright.
Well, I'm thinking from what you're saying, like you're rotating buddies, which is just a foreign concept to me. But to me, it would also you don't want to leave a bad impression with a new buddy.
That
you
is
don't want to get kicked out of the buddy circle. I mean, seriously, I think that there's something to that because you can take each other for granted, really. Anybody
True.
can. If you've, and not that it ever happens, but
That's true. And I've had somebody that have said, you know what, I'm just not into it this week. And I say, okay, well, I'm here if you need me. I'm certainly not going to push them or anything. And that's okay too, because we all have that up and down, but my downs are a lot higher than my ups used to be before. I'm on a lot higher plane than I was before. I'm feeling a lot better about myself and I'm eating a lot better. Life is good, by golly. Life is really good.
and you said that you've retired recently.
I did 3 years ago.
Okay, well, what is happening now, like for your planning? Do you spend a lot of time in food prep or not?
Because it varies. Sometimes I make things in bulk so that I have them on hand. The reason why I do that is because then I have one mess to clean up, and then I have like Beth Monroe has her magic breakfast. I call it her magic breakfast, and you make that in a big bulk, and then you put it away and you eat it every day. And so I sometimes make a great big batch of that with maybe 20 days worth of breakfast.
Oh, wow.
And I'll make all of those and then I put them in the freezer, and that's nice to just grab it in the morning and know that I have it. But sometimes because I'm home and we eat fairly simply, my husband runs the grill and I make the side dishes. So I don't need to make those things in advance. Although when he grills enough meat and then it goes in the refrigerator and then we just pull it out and warm it up during the week. So that's about as much batch prepping as I do. I usually make a gigantic salad maybe twice a week, and then I pull that out and measure out my gigantic salad. I love a big salad. Um, so I make a great big one, and then I pull from that for my daily salads as I need them.
Well, what would you put in your salad?
Oh my goodness, I get out romaine lettuce and I use spring greens and I chop up peppers and radishes and red onion, and I put in frozen peas, and I put, let's see, so I just make this big bag. I like tomatoes and I like cucumbers in it, but I never cut them up in advance because they go icky. So those ones I will cut up fresh and put in there, but everything else I just cut up and put it in the big bag and then pull it out and measure out, my 6 ounces or 8 ounces or however many ounces I want.
I love that. Well, you got to share what's in the breakfast. Because I don't remember what's in the breakfast. I know there's a sweet potato involved.
Beth's magic breakfast. Yes, if she wants you for your grain to have 4 ounces of sweet potatoes. So I throw a big bag of sweet potatoes into my Instapot and I cook them for 30 minutes, and then I just pull out 4 ounces of it and put it in a baggie. And then she wants you to have vegetables instead of fruit. So that would be 6 ounces of fruit. So that would be my mushrooms and onions and peppers. And sometimes I put broccoli slaw in it. Sometimes I put, shredded carrots, whatever vegetables I want. I cook up a great big gigantic pan and just saute it a little bit, and then throw 6 ounces of that into the bag with the sweet potatoes. And then you just do your protein. So for your protein, you can do 2 eggs, or you can do beans. I love black beans in it. I love red beans in it. I love chickpeas in it. You could put sausage or chicken or whatever you want to do for your 4 ounces of protein, you can put in that. And then I just cook it all up kind of like a giant omelet. And then if I use eggs, or like a bowl of chili if I use beans, and then I put salsa on top of it, and it's good. Now, my version of Beth's Magic Breakfast is different than Beth's version of Magic Breakfast. She takes the sweet potato and the eggs and like whips it together and then cooks it, and it's like a souffle. And then she has the vegetables. So hers is different than mine is, but they still taste good and I still like it.
So I want to get this straight. You said that you froze like 20 of these?
Yes.
So you're freezing everything except obviously the eggs, right?
Correct.
So
I
you
freeze
don't,
the sweet potato and the vegetables, and then I put the protein in fresh.
okay, so like if you're going to have sausage, you're cooking it up and then you're going to get this out of the freezer the night before and you know what you're going to have. You've never baked them in like cups or anything like that?
You mean baked them and then froze them?
Yeah,
I
that's
haven't done that.
okay,
I
because
think that I think people do that, but that I haven't done that yet.
I think I need to try it. It
Well, it's
sounds really
pretty yummy.
good.
It's interesting because I love vegetables and carrots are my very favorite food, always have been my whole life. And yet sweet potatoes are the one vegetable that I don't like. And so she was like, I want you to have 4 ounces of sweet potatoes. And I was like, ugh, okay, really? But you know what? Now I like sweet potatoes. I think I just didn't like them with all the marshmallow and the cinnamon and stuff that people make into it. I think maybe that was what it was that I didn't like that.
I've been
But
amazed too, because I started eating them again as well. And I don't put anything on it, maybe a little shake of cinnamon. I'm like, I can't believe all the stuff that used to be put on this stuff. I mean, seriously, in so many recipes, period, that what was added on was why? I mean, you just
yeah,
really can't believe
exactly.
it. So it is, it is replacing what we want in our life. And that's a really important part about all of this. And you said that to me the other day, that was one of your key finds, was like replacing some good in, how did that go? Like make room for the good or something like that.
Yeah, replace the bad with something good. You just slide it over and put something good in its place. And one of the things I like best about BLE is the food is so pretty. Even if it's a salad and a piece of steak, my husband laughs because I have to get out my camera and take a picture of it because it's so pretty. The food is so colorful. All of the rainbow of in my vegetables are so beautiful, and the meat is so tender and delicious. It's like he's like, "What is wrong with you?" He calls it food porn because I'm always taking pictures of my food. And my buddies and my coaches are they're probably like, "Okay, Wendy, you've had this meal the last 4 days, and yet you sent me a picture every day." Because it's all so pretty. The fruit is so pretty and the vegetables are so colorful and the meat tastes better. Everything tastes better when your tongue is not coated with fat and sugar and salt. It's just amazing.
Isn't it though? I mean, I just got my camera out at lunch today at work. I took a picture. I'm like, I've got my watermelon, I've got asparagus, I've got beets, I've got chickpea pasta with some
Yeah.
tomato stuff. And I'm like, I am not suffering here. I even had a half ounce of peanuts.
Isn't that interesting? I had a thing where they asked, I was going and somebody else was preparing food for a large group, 200 people, and they said, "Do you have any food allergies?" So I wrote on my paper, "I don't eat sugar and I don't eat flour." And they called me back and they said, "We don't know how to feed you." And I said, "Well, tell me what you're eating." And they said, "Well, we're having barbecue chicken and a salad and green beans." And I said, "I can eat all of that. I can eat chicken if the barbecue sauce is on the side, so and they were like, "Oh, okay." And I said, "That doesn't have sugar or flour." And they said, "For breakfast, we're having bacon and eggs." And I said, "I can have bacon and eggs. That doesn't have sugar or flour." Pretty soon he's like, "You know what? You're actually the easiest person that we're feeding because people think they're doing that without, when the fact is they're opening up a world of so much more."
Oh, so true. I'm just noticing the time here, and this is
Oh dear,
crazy.
are we out of time?
No, we're not, because I have two more questions.
Oh, good. Well, we did this earlier this week. We said, let's get together and talk. And pretty soon my husband's like, "Are you ever going to get off the phone?" I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm going to stay on here
No,
forever."
we're just gonna chat. So take that
Yeah.
warning, who's ever next, all of you. Okay. So you have not hit your first year, but it's coming up soon. In all of this,
A couple more weeks. Yes.
in all of this time, what would you say have been those best non-scale victories for you?
Um, I had a darling little girl that lived in my basement. She left me some jeans to donate. And instead of donating, I stuck them in my closet. And when I pulled those out and slid those on, that was a good day for Wendy.
Wow.
Another really good day. Well, I travel a lot. My husband and I travel a lot. We winter in Hawaii. And when I went to Hawaii in January, I posted a picture of me holding my suitcase in front of the airport because I had lost the amount that suitcase weighed. And so that was a good day. And when I got on the airplane and that belt clicked and I had all of that belt left over, I said, since I've lost 50 pounds, every seat feels like first class because I've got room on both sides of my hips. That's a nice thing. Those are some of my favorite non-scale victories. Oh, I went to my high school reunion, and one of the kids at my high school reunion said, "Wendy, you're so skinny." And I said, "I think everyone should greet me like that from now on. That should be their greeting. Wendy, you're so skinny." Even the mean girl from high school said, "Wendy, you look so great." So, yay.
Even the mean girl did?
Yeah, how about that?
That's notable. So here we are, Wendy. Wonderful, Wendy.
Yes.
It's just been such a pleasure to get to know you. And, the 50 pounds that number is going to be here again. And you're going to have to make the decision to go public if it's not before this hits YouTube. But what will you say to those who are interested, who are maybe looking at this program like, oh man, no way, I can't do that? What would you say about Bright Line Eating to them?
Well, I really think it's important for them to read the book or to watch the food freedom videos before they make any decision. I don't like to tell people what I'm doing because then they say, "Oh, I can't do it," before they even gave it a try. But they need to find out what their why is. And for me, it was so nice to have an answer to the questions that I have had my whole entire life. Why is my mother cooking for my whole family and I'm the only one that's overweight? I don't understand why. And reading those books, that gave me the answer that I had been looking for. So that meant a lot to me. So I would think I would tell people, don't discount it until you know more about it.
So you're talking from the science point, and you're referring back to yourself as a little girl, even though in your
Sure.
family, you were the only
Mm-hmm.
one that you felt stuck out as having any kind of food issue. And isn't that so
Correct.
true? I mean, why this person and not that one? Why can, someone not have a problem at all? I think that is a great answer, that, to be able to have some of that scientific knowledge along with a solid structural program.
The thing that's nice about Bright Line Eating is it's structured enough that you know what to do, but it's freedom enough that you can eat. Essentially, you can eat anything except sugar and flour. So I think that's what makes it so nice, is instead of saying, well, you can't have this, you can't have this, you can't have this, you can say, I can have all of this.
Right.
I can have anything except sugar and flour. So that opens up a whole new world.
It absolutely does. Well,
and I like the fact that there's people to help you all along the way. Starting out, somebody's there to guide you. Halfway through, somebody's been there and can tell you what to do. Heading towards maintenance, there's a whole slew of people that are in maintenance right now. Been on maintenance for a year, worried about the creep, somebody's there to hold your hand. I have found that just like me with my buddies, I never want to let go. I have found that people don't want to let go with me. Everyone in this group wants you to succeed. They are so happy that you're here and that they would do anything that you can so that you can have success. And I think it's really important that if you don't work the program, you can't say the program doesn't work, because it does work. There's so many people that are showing that it does. And so, but you have to work it. You have to be all in. You have to be unstoppable. Boy, I've turned into a cliche.
No, you've turned into motivational Wendy, and you're known in that
Oh,
group. Can you say the name of the group again that you're in that is getting quite a lot of support? What is the
it's the
exact
brightest
name?
eaters, the brightest eaters of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
And now, is it only for that faith community?
I think that they'll let anybody in.
Okay, answer the questions
But
and see where you go.
yeah, pretty much. I think that it's a faith-based group, and so a lot of the stuff that we post is faith-based. But so if you're okay with that, we're okay with you. But
Well, I've enjoyed it.
It's a big, powerful group.
I'm not of that faith, but I've enjoyed all the company and the just amazing people. And so it's it's a beautiful thing to be able to, like I said, the other diets were so lonely, really lonely. And you're right away, you're talking from the very beginning. It's like hand holding. It's just, I don't know how you can beat that anywhere. So if you're new, you're wondering, get into a group. If you want any ideas, reach out even to me, and I can steer you. I probably know 50 groups.
I think that's why Susan Pierce Thompson puts you in a home room with a group of people that are going to hold your hand and help you through it. That's why she does all of the things that she does, so that you feel like you are supported. We talked about this earlier, going to Weight Watchers and having to weigh in front of everybody. Yikes. How horrible that was, and that I never felt loved, accepted, or supported. I only felt judged. And so this is so nice because I can come in here, and even if I'm doing terrible, nobody judges me. Everybody just lifts me up and edifies and wants me to succeed. So you made this mistake. What can we do differently? One of my coaches, if I slipped, would say, I want you to fill out that permission to be human form. And I said, I'm never going to slip again because I never want to have to dig that deep. And why did I make that slip? But you almost have to dig deep to find your why and to keep going.
Well, and honestly, I look back at times that I have slipped, and I have found that it has helped propel me to do more inner work, because it wasn't just about food left on the counter. It was making a decision internally. And how did I get to that internal decision? And so I've said it many times, I'm not original in this, but it's not just about the food. It's really not.
So true.
It's so much more. And
it's about your brain and about your heart.
It's about so many things. Well, before we close, do you have any last words for us?
I would say, don't give up. Even if you're struggling, that's okay. That's part of the plan also. So you're not called to be perfect. You're just called to be unstoppable. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Absolutely. Well, with that, I am going to close as I do each week. Wendy, thank you so much for being here. I value our friendship already, and I can't wait to talk again. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And I'm going to close as I do each week. Good night. Stay bright. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Good night, everybody. So, Wendy, how would you like to play 3-Question Thursday?
I would like it so much. It sounds wonderful.
Great. 3-Question Thursday. Here we go. Number 1. You are like the reader, okay? And we talked a little bit like, what are your avenues for reading that many books? You're saying like the voices in your head instead of food chatter. It's now like seriously you're reading books. And you mentioned Audible. What are other choices you have for reading books?
I do a app called Overdrive, and it goes through your library. So all you need is your library card. You go online, you fill it out, and you can check out books to your phone or to your Kindle. So you can read them, you can listen to them, and it's free of charge. And so I like that one. Another one that goes through the library is called Libby, Libby, Library Libby. And so that's another one that goes through your library and just uses your library card. The downside of that is sometimes they have 3 copies of a book and they have 100 people that want to check out that same book. But sometimes they have 70 copies of a book so you can get it quickly. But they do have a wait list and you can work your way up the list. I find like with the Brene Brown books, sometimes they have 80 copies of those, but it still takes you 6 months to get them. But
Oh,
I love all of her books, and so it's worth the wait. When it comes, I take my turn, and I'm so happy when it's finally my turn. I do have the Audible app, and so I like that one really well. I have people who gift me Audible credits because they paid for them and they're never going to use them, and I gobble up books as fast as I can. So that's always a wonderful thing. My husband bought me the Deseret Book app, being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Deseret Book is their big book publishing company, and they have Deseret Bookshelf so that any of their books are available, and you pay a monthly fee. And he bought me that, and I disappeared into my room, and like I didn't even come out for 3 or 4 days. Maybe it was even 3 or 4 weeks, and then I realized that he bought me that right when the NFL started. So he was out watching NFL while I was in reading. And I thought, that was a win-win for both of us. I got what I wanted and he got what he wanted, which was a little peace and quiet.
wow, that is amazing. What was that list again that you had? This is still on number 1. What is the list of, you do a biography,
I do a biography, a history, a self-help book, and then some kind of a church or spiritual book.
and that's every month, which is absolutely amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Okay, question number 2.
When you spend 8 hours a day hearing a book, it's really not that big of a deal.
Oh, that's true. Like you can keep it going.
My biography this month was called The Boys by Ron and Clint Howard. Remember Mayberry, Little Opie, and Gentle Ben? What was his name? Mark on Gentle Ben. Those 2 brothers, and it goes through and they talk about their life. It was a good read. I enjoyed it.
That's great. Question number 2. You also, in your habit stack, I don't know if we talked about it tonight, but you said that you always touch base.
Yes.
What does that mean?
That means I either listen to a blog or I listen to an accountability call, or I talk to one of my coaches, or I talk to a mastermind group. Every day I try to touch something that is BLE.
Okay. So, the last one is going to be like of the vlogs, because I know that you've listened to a lot of them. Is there one that comes to mind that is your favorite?
Probably the one about intermittent reinforcement as to why you have to tell yourself no. I often have to tell myself, no, don't be ridiculous. I'm not going to do that. I'm not putting that in my mouth because, my voices in my head are very compelling.
Well, and you're speaking my language on that intermittent reinforcement. That is my favorite vlog of all time that Susan put out.
And I have to watch it a lot.
If you don't,
to remind myself.
Just to expand on that while we're talking about it, for someone who's new, the idea is this space between meals that, you have the structure of your meal. And if you go beyond that, so let's say, for example, you have your dinner, you come and you're washing your dishes, and you're like, well, there's a few blueberries in the bowl. I'll have some of those. It's telling your brain there's an exception. And so it's like this little child in your brain, the one nagging, mommy, can I please have one more? Except the loudness gets louder, the voice gets louder, the nagging gets whinier. And so it just magnifies how many times you'll get that voice. And that's the food chatter. That's the food monster. You can't get away from it. So anyway, Wendy, I want to, since I talked most of that question, I just want to ask, you are known for your motivation. What is it that motivates you? Or do you have a favorite motivational quote or any kind of mantra?
Ooh, a mantra. With Bright Line Eating, it is usually, ooh, that's gross. I'm not putting that in my mouth. Or one meal at a time or one day at a time and keep moving forward. Uh, I love Louise Hay. And so one of my favorite quotes with her is that which you focus on expands. So if you focus on your good health will expand. So I like that one really, really well.
Well, that's fantastic. Well,
I
Wendy,
also have to say, be kind to yourself. Be kind. Just be kind. Be kind to other people. Be kind to yourself. I think we need a lot more kindness.
I think so too. When what goes around comes around.
So
Wendy,
true.
thank you so much for saying yes when you're asked by a complete stranger to share your story. I really
My pleasure.
appreciate it. And I really loved getting to know you. What a delight. So thank you. And thanks, everybody. Good night.
Bye.
Stay bright. Good night.